If other people's words still change how you feel this hour, this audiobook is for you. This is a clear, practical guide to stop handing your peace away and to start building steady emotional strength every day. You will hear solid steps to stay composed when someone attacks you, to turn pain into fuel for change, to stop needing constant approval, and to protect your energy from needless drama. This recording is spoken in a calm, direct voice, so you can try the ideas as you listen. Notice how your breathing can slow and your shoulders can relax when you practice just one quick habit I will teach you. Picture the relief of moving through a tough conversation without that tight knot in your chest. Those small physical changes happen quickly, and they matter because they change how you think and what you do next. Each chapter gives simple exercises and real-life examples you can use right away. You will get short daily practices to build control, not in theory, but in actual moments that used to throw you off. You will learn how to decide what is yours and what belongs to someone else, how to turn criticism into a plan of action, and how to respond firmly without losing your calm. You will also get tools to protect your focus, so distractions and other people's moods stop running your life. This audiobook is not about pretend calm or empty pep talks. It is about steady habits, small, clear actions, and honest self-work that lead to real change. Stick with it through to the final section, and you will learn a 1-minute routine that immediately reduces reactivity and helps you keep your balance in heated situations. If you want less anxiety, more clarity, and the ability to move forward without carrying every slight, this is the path. Keep listening and practice the tools as you go, and you will start to feel the difference before the book ends. Chapter 1. Master the art of staying calm when others attack. When someone attacks you, your first instinct is often to defend yourself. You feel a spark rise inside, a heat that moves fast, almost faster than thought. It's your natural defense mechanism, a mix of pride, fear, and self-preservation. You want to explain, argue, or prove your worth. But in that split second between what's said to you and how you respond, your entire power lies. The art of staying calm when others attack is not about weakness or silence. It's about mastering that space between their noise and your choice. It's the ability to remain centered when someone tries to pull you off balance. It's emotional strength in motion. Calmness doesn't mean you don't feel the sting of someone's words. You do. You're human. But it means you refuse to let their energy decide your state of mind. Think of it this way. If someone throws fire your way and you respond with fire, both of you burn. But if you respond with calm, the flame dies in the air. This is not passive behavior. It's control at its highest form. It's choosing to lead your emotions instead of being led by them. Most people spend their lives reacting. Few ever rise above reaction to the level of understanding. Every person you meet carries their own pain, their frustrations, and insecurities. When someone attacks you, whether through harsh words, sarcasm, or passive aggression, they're often expressing something that's not truly about you. They may be hurt, jealous, or simply overwhelmed by life. Their behavior is a reflection of their inner world, not yours. When you understand this, you gain distance. You stop internalizing every attack as a personal statement. You begin to see that people act out of their own struggles. This understanding doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it helps you keep your peace. When you're calm, you're in control. When you lose your temper, you give that control away. It's easy to say, "I had no choice, they pushed me." But the truth is, you always have a choice. Calmness is not something you find, it's something you create. It comes from training your mind to stay steady, no matter what enters your space. You start by paying attention to your reactions. Notice what triggers you. Notice how fast your emotions rise. The more you observe yourself, the more power you gain over yourself. Awareness is the foundation of calmness. There will always be people who try to provoke you, either intentionally or by habit. Some will misunderstand you. Some will underestimate you. Some will speak without thinking. None of these moments can define you unless you let them. The art is to remain steady, even when others are unsteady. When you feel attacked, the best thing you can do is pause. Not to suppress your feelings, but to give them space. A short pause is a long power. In that pause, you see the situation more clearly. You can ask yourself, what's really happening here? Is this about me or about them? That single question can turn conflict into clarity. Calmness does not come naturally. It's trained through discipline. You build it like you build a muscle. Each time you resist reacting, you grow stronger. Each time you respond with patience instead of anger, you increase your emotional endurance. You won't always get it right. You'll have moments where your emotions spill out before you can stop them. That's part of being human. But progress happens when you reflect after those moments and decide to handle them better next time. True strength is not never falling. It's standing up with more wisdom every time you do. To master calmness under attack, start practicing emotional detachment. This doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means learning not to take ownership of what isn't yours. If someone insults you, that's their opinion. It only becomes your burden if you accept it. When you detach emotionally, you stop absorbing negativity. You start observing it. You might think, that's an interesting reaction, instead of, why would they say that about me? Detachment gives you freedom. You see that not every comment deserves your energy, not every argument deserves your voice, and not every battle deserves your presence. Your calmness becomes your protection. When you no longer rise to every attack, people notice. Some will respect it. Others will test it. Either way, you win. Because staying calm is not about them, it's about preserving your peace. You begin to carry yourself differently. You listen more and speak less. You don't rush to prove or defend. You act with intention, not impulse. People who attack are often seeking control or validation. When you stay calm, you deny them both. You keep your power where it belongs with you. Imagine someone says something cruel about you. Your ego will immediately want to respond. It will push you to argue, to explain, to set the record straight. But take a moment to breathe. Remind yourself that you don't need to attend every argument. You're invited to. The truth does not need to shout. When you remain composed, you communicate something stronger than words: self-respect. Calmness is silent confidence. It's the quiet understanding that your peace is more valuable than winning a moment of pride. There's a deep freedom in not reacting. When you stop taking every comment or behavior personally, you stop living as a prisoner of others' moods. You realize that most people's words are not a mirror, they're a projection. You become more aware that anger, jealousy, or bitterness in others is often pain wearing armor. This perspective gives you compassion. Instead of reacting with anger, you respond with understanding. That doesn't mean you allow disrespect. You can set boundaries with calm firmness. You can say, I don't accept being spoken to that way, without raising your voice. Calmness gives your words weight. To practice calmness, use real-life moments as training. When someone cuts you off in traffic, don't let anger control you. When someone criticizes you unfairly, see it as a test of your patience. Every situation that challenges your peace is an opportunity to strengthen it. The more you train yourself to stay calm in small moments, the easier it becomes in big ones. Calmness becomes your automatic response. You become less reactive and more intentional. You stop living at the mercy of others' behavior. Another important aspect of calmness is self-trust. When you trust yourself, you don't feel the need to defend yourself constantly. You know who you are. You don't need to fight every misunderstanding to prove it. Self-trust creates a quiet confidence. It tells you, I can handle whatever comes my way. When you believe in your own stability, other people's instability doesn't shake you as much. You stop depending on external validation to feel okay inside. You become your own source of balance. To build this kind of self-trust, you must honor your values daily. Be honest. Do what you say you will do. Keep promises to yourself. Each act of integrity strengthens your inner foundation. Then, when someone attacks or criticizes you, you can stay calm because you know the truth of who you are. You don't need to argue with false perceptions when your conscience is clear. Calmness rooted in integrity cannot be shaken easily. When you stay calm under attack, you also give others a mirror. Your calmness exposes their chaos. It often makes people aware of their own behavior. Some may reflect and soften. Others may get louder because they can't stand losing control. Either way, you remain steady. You realize that their reaction says more about them than about you. Your role is not to fix them or please them, it's to protect your state of mind. This is emotional maturity. You are no longer a participant in every storm. You become the observer of it. Many people confuse calmness with weakness, but calmness requires far more strength than anger ever will. Anyone can explode. Few can stay composed. Anger is easy, it's immediate, emotional, and self-justifying. Calmness is difficult. It requires patience, awareness, and discipline. But calmness is what changes lives. It makes you more effective in every situation, at work, at home, in relationships. People trust calm individuals because they bring stability. When you can stay calm while others lose control, you become a leader by example. Practicing calmness also changes your physical health. Stress, anger, and reactivity take a toll on your body. They increase blood pressure, tighten muscles, and cloud your thinking. When you learn to stay calm, your body relaxes. Your breathing becomes slower, your mind clearer, your decisions wiser. You don't waste energy fighting every emotional battle. You start living from a place of strength, not survival. This inner steadiness spills over into everything you do. You speak with more thought. You listen with more care. You make choices based on reason, not emotion. To deepen your calmness, you can practice simple techniques. One powerful method is conscious breathing. When you feel provoked, focus on your breath. Inhale slowly. Feel the air enter your body. Exhale slowly. Feel the tension leave. Even 10 seconds of conscious breathing can interrupt the pattern of emotional reaction. It grounds you back in the present moment. Another technique is perspective shifting. Ask yourself, will this matter a week from now, a month from now? Most of the time, it won't. Realizing this helps you let go faster. You begin to value peace over temporary satisfaction. It's also helpful to remind yourself that you are not responsible for how others treat you, but you are responsible for how you respond. You cannot control their tone, words, or behavior, but you can control your attitude. That's where your power lives. When you respond calmly, you act from strength, not weakness. You become the example and others learn from. You start leading your life instead of reacting to it. Calmness turns you into the steady center that chaos cannot move. Another part of mastering calmness is learning to forgive, not for them, but for yourself. Holding on to anger keeps you emotionally tied to the attack. Forgiveness cuts that tie. It allows you to move forward without bitterness. Forgiveness doesn't mean you approve of what happened. It means you choose not to let it control your peace. Every time you forgive, you reclaim your energy. You free your mind from the past and create space for better experiences. The journey to mastering calmness is not about perfection, it's about progress. You'll have days when you handle things well and days when you don't. What matters is that you keep choosing peace over reaction. You'll notice that with time, the same things that once triggered you no longer have the same power. That's growth. You begin to realize that the strongest person in the room is not the one who speaks the loudest, It's the one who stays calm when everyone else loses control. Calmness is not just an emotional tool, it's a life philosophy. It teaches you to slow down in a world that moves too fast. It teaches you to think before speaking, to act before reacting, to stay grounded in truth instead of getting lost in noise. It helps you see clearly what truly matters and what doesn't. When you're calm, you make better choices. You build stronger relationships. You experience less regret. You live more peacefully because you're no longer chained to the moods and opinions of others. When others attack, they are offering you a test of who you are, what you value, and how much control you truly have over yourself. Each attack can either drag you down or raise you higher. The difference is in your response. The goal is not to never be affected, but to never be controlled. The moment you realize that your calmness cannot be taken from you, you become free. You stop reacting to life and start living it on your own terms. Staying calm when attacked doesn't mean staying silent. You can still speak truth, set boundaries, and stand your ground, but do it from a place of strength, not emotion. Speak slowly. Choose words with intention. The tone of calmness carries more power than the volume of anger. People remember calm authority. They forget loud arguments. Every time you respond calmly, you strengthen your reputation, your confidence, and your inner peace. The world is full of noise, full of people projecting their pain onto others. To live peacefully, you must learn to see beyond their behavior. You must remind yourself that you cannot control how others treat you, but you can always control what you allow to enter your mind. Your calmness becomes your shield, your patience becomes your power, your silence becomes your wisdom. In the end, mastering the art of staying calm when others attack is mastering yourself. It's realizing that peace is not something you find, it's something you create. It's not given by others, it's built from within. The more you practice it, the stronger it grows. And one day, you'll face a moment that would have once made you angry or defensive, and you'll find yourself simply breathing, steady, unmoved. That's when you'll know you've changed. You've evolved from reaction to understanding. You've learned that no one has the power to disturb your peace unless you hand it to them. Staying calm when others attack is not the absence of emotion, it's the presence of strength. It's wisdom in action. It's the quiet victory of self-control over impulse. It's what separates those who live at the mercy of others from those who lead their own lives with grace and clarity. When you choose calmness, you choose freedom. And when you choose freedom, nothing and no one can control your peace again. Chapter 2. Turn emotional pain into power through self-control. Emotional pain can feel like a weight that refuses to lift. It doesn't always announce itself through tears or loud expressions. Sometimes it hides in silence, in tired eyes, or in the feeling that something inside you has dimmed. Everyone experiences emotional pain, betrayal, disappointment, rejection, loss, but few ever learn how to transform it into power. Most people try to escape it, numb it, or blame others for it. But the truth is, pain is not meant to break you. It's meant to teach you. It becomes power only when you decide to face it instead of running from it. That transformation begins with one skill: self-control. Self-control is not about suppressing how you feel. It's about managing what those feelings do to you. Pain invites chaos into your mind, pushing you to react without thinking. It makes you want to say things you'll regret, act out of anger, or isolate yourself completely. But when you learn self-control, you take that chaos and direct it. You begin to respond instead of react. You begin to choose clarity over confusion. You begin to see that the emotion itself isn't the enemy, your relationship with it is. When you start guiding your emotions instead of being guided by them, you reclaim your strength. The process starts with honesty. You can't transform pain that you refuse to acknowledge. Many people bury their emotions under distraction, pretending they've moved on. But buried emotions don't disappear. They shape your decisions quietly, making you bitter, defensive, or distant. The first act of power is to admit how you really feel. Tell yourself the truth without judgment. Say, "Yes, I'm hurt. Yes, this situation disappointed me. Yes, I expected better." That honesty brings relief. It gives your emotions a place to exist. Once you've faced your pain, you can begin to shape it into something useful. Self-control thrives on awareness. When you're aware of what triggers you, you gain space between the feeling and the action. That small space is where growth happens. Imagine you feel betrayed by someone you trusted. The immediate urge is to confront, accuse, or lash out. But if you pause, if you take even a few breaths before responding, you begin to take back your authority. You shift from the emotional reaction of, "How could they do this to me?" to the empowered question, "What can I learn about myself from this?" That single change in focus transforms pain into wisdom. It takes discipline to do that, but every time you manage it, you strengthen your inner stability. Turning pain into power also means using it as fuel for growth. Every emotional wound carries information about what matters to you. It reveals your values, your limits, and your expectations. If you feel rejected, it teaches you where your sense of worth truly comes from. If you feel disappointed, it shows you what needs to change in your priorities. Pain can make you wiser if you're willing to listen to it. Instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What is this teaching me about myself?" Self-control helps you stay calm enough to hear those lessons instead of drowning in emotion. When you experience emotional pain, your mind often spirals into stories how things could have been, what others should have done, what you'll never get back. Those thoughts are natural, but they keep you stuck. Self-control helps you interrupt those stories. It tells you, "Enough. This is what happened. Now, what can I do next?" That kind of thinking doesn't dismiss your emotions, it redirects them toward action. Pain loses its power over you when you stop replaying the past and start shaping the future. Self-control allows you to focus on what's still within your control, your attitude, your choices, your effort. Another aspect of turning pain into power is emotional discipline. This means refusing to let negative feelings dominate your daily state of mind. You acknowledge them, but you don't let them take over. You might feel sadness or anger, but you still get up, still take care of your responsibilities, still keep moving forward. That consistency is strength. Emotional discipline teaches you that your life cannot stop every time something hurts. You may slow down, but you don't collapse. You may cry, but you don't quit. Over time, this kind of steady discipline reshapes how you experience pain. It becomes less about suffering and more about learning endurance. Self-control also involves perspective. When something painful happens, it's easy to see it only through the lens of loss. But if you look closely, pain often removes what no longer serves you. It exposes illusions, false expectations, and unbalanced attachments. Pain clears space for truth. When you control your emotions, you begin to see this process instead of fighting it. You understand that not every loss is a punishment. Sometimes it's a correction. You begin to realize that every painful moment is preparing you for a wiser version of yourself. The pain that once felt unbearable becomes a turning point, a moment when you stopped being ruled by emotion and started leading with wisdom. To turn emotional pain into power, you must also control how you speak to yourself. Inner dialogue determines whether you heal or stay hurt. If you keep repeating that you've been wronged, betrayed, or broken, you trap yourself in that identity. But if you tell yourself, "This pain is teaching me patience, this loss is building my strength, this moment is helping me grow," your mind begins to change. Your thoughts become a tool of transformation. Self-control begins in the mind. It's the discipline to choose empowering thoughts even when negative ones come easier. The words you use with yourself are either wounds or medicine. Choose the ones that heal. You also turn pain into power by taking action in the right direction. Self-control doesn't mean doing nothing. It means channeling your energy toward what benefits you. If your heart feels broken, invest time in self-care. Exercise, read, learn something new, surround yourself with people who uplift you. Every small, healthy action becomes a vote for your healing. The mind begins to shift focus from what you lost to what you can build. Self-control gives you structure when emotions feel overwhelming. It reminds you that even when you can't change what happened, you can always change what you do next. Pain can easily make you bitter, but self-control keeps you balanced. It prevents you from turning temporary hurt into permanent hatred. When you control your emotions, you protect your heart from hardening. You can remember what happened without letting it define your future. That's real power, the ability to carry pain without letting it carry you. People often mistake control for suppression, but the difference is huge. Suppression ignores the emotion. Control acknowledges it, then directs it toward growth. It says, "I feel this deeply, but I will not let it destroy me." That decision alone separates those who remain trapped by pain from those who rise above it. Emotional strength also means accepting that healing takes time. You can't rush it. Self-control helps you be patient with the process. Some days you'll feel progress. Other days you'll feel the same old pain. That's normal. What matters is that you don't let those emotions dictate your actions. When you stay consistent despite emotional ups and downs, you prove to yourself that feelings don't control you, you control them. That consistency builds confidence. You start trusting yourself to handle discomfort. You start believing that nothing can break you completely because you always find a way to rebuild. There's also deep empowerment in forgiveness. When you forgive, you reclaim energy that was stuck in anger. You don't forgive because someone deserves it. You forgive because you deserve peace. Self-control allows you to make that decision without resentment. It helps you understand that holding on to anger keeps you connected to the very pain you want to escape. Forgiveness is not about forgetting, it's about freeing yourself. Each time you choose forgiveness over revenge, you turn pain into wisdom. You prove to yourself that you're stronger than the circumstances that hurt you. Pain, when guided by self-control, becomes clarity. It teaches you who you are under pressure. It shows you what matters most. It strips away illusions and makes you real. You stop being controlled by fear or attachment, and you begin to operate from awareness. You no longer say, "I wish this hadn't happened," but "This happened, and I grew from it." That mindset is unshakable. It's the kind of strength that no one can take away, because it's built on your ability to master yourself. In the end, turning emotional pain into power is not about avoiding emotion, about transforming it. It's about allowing yourself to feel without losing direction. It's about learning to turn heartbreak into clarity, rejection into self-respect, and disappointment into resilience. The more you practice this, the more you realize that no one can take away your peace unless you give it to them. You learn that pain is temporary, but the lessons it gives you can last a lifetime. Through self-control, you stop being a victim of what happened and become the author of what happens next. Pain will visit your life again and again, but with self-control, it will no longer define you. It will refine you. You'll still feel deeply, but you'll also think clearly. You'll still care, but you won't crumble. You'll face difficulty with calm strength and choose responses that keep your dignity intact. You'll begin to see that pain was never your enemy. It was your greatest teacher, waiting for you to take control and turn its lessons into power. When you reach that point, you'll realize that emotional pain never truly weakens you. It introduces you to the strength that was inside you all along. Chapter 3. Rise above judgment by knowing your true worth. Judgment from others can quietly steal your peace if you allow it to. It creeps into your mind, making you question your choices, your appearance, your values, even your progress. It can come from people you love, people you work with, or complete strangers who know nothing about you. But the truth is, judgment is a reflection of others' beliefs, not your worth. The moment you understand that, you begin to rise above it. Knowing your worth means you no longer let every opinion shape how you see yourself. It means you stop trying to fit into expectations that were never meant for you. It's a process of returning home to your own truth and standing firm there. Everyone wants to be seen, understood, and respected. That desire is human. But when you depend on others' approval to feel valuable, you hand them control over your confidence. You give them the ability to lift you up or tear you down. That's why knowing your true worth is so important. It's your anchor. It keeps you steady no matter what others say or think. When you know who you are, you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You start realizing that the opinions of others are not facts about you. They are only perceptions filtered through their own insecurities, experiences, and fears. Judgment often hurts because it touches a part of us that doubts our own value. When someone criticizes you, it echoes against the doubts you already hold. If you secretly fear that you're not enough, even a small comment can feel like confirmation. That's why building self-worth is not about proving people wrong. It's about believing you are enough, even when no one tells you so. It's about forming a relationship with yourself that is honest, kind, and unbreakable. The more you know your worth, the less others can shake it. You begin building that inner foundation by understanding where your worth actually comes from. It's not given by achievements, wealth, or praise. Those things are temporary and can disappear at any moment. True worth comes from being aligned with your values, from knowing that you live with integrity, from treating others with kindness, and from growing through your challenges. It comes from self-respect, knowing that you are a person of substance regardless of who notices it. When you live by your principles, you don't need external validation. You create your own definition of success, and you stop comparing your journey to anyone else's. People will always judge, often without understanding the full story. They'll make assumptions based on fragments of what they see. Some will judge you for being too quiet, others for speaking too much. Some will call you too ambitious. Others will say, you don't try hard enough. You can never win that game. The only way to rise above it is to stop playing it. Once you stop chasing approval, you become free. You begin to realize that judgment loses its power the moment you decide it no longer defines you. When someone speaks poorly of you, it doesn't lower your value, it only reveals their mindset. The key is to build inner stability so strong that no external voice can overpower it. You do this through consistent self-affirmation, not empty flattery but grounded truth. Remind yourself daily of your strengths, your resilience, and the obstacles you've overcome. Think about the times you stood up after falling, the lessons you learned through hardship, and the kindness you've shown even when it wasn't returned. Those moments prove your worth. The more you focus on those truths, the less affected you are by judgment. You start to see that other people's opinions say nothing about your reality. They only expose how they interpret the world. Self-worth is not arrogance. It's quiet assurance. It doesn't shout for attention or demand recognition. It's the calm knowing that you matter, even when unnoticed. You don't need to convince anyone of your value because it's not up for debate. When you live this way, you attract respect without asking for it. You carry yourself differently. You make decisions that honor your peace instead of pleasing others. People may not always understand it, but they will feel it. Your calm confidence will say what words never could. When judgment comes your way, pause before reacting. Remind yourself that their perspective belongs to them, not you. You have the power to decide what enters your mental space. Some words are not worth internalizing. You can acknowledge what's said without absorbing it. You can listen, reflect briefly, and move on. That act of mental discipline is how you stay free. Rising above judgment doesn't mean you stop caring about feedback. It means you learn to separate constructive advice from destructive criticism. One helps you grow, the other drains your energy. You get to choose which one you allow to shape you. There will be moments when judgment comes from people you expected to support you. That can cut the deepest. It can make you question your path. But remember, not everyone will understand the vision you have for your life. Some will project their fears onto you because they cannot see beyond their own limits. Their disbelief in you is not your problem to fix. You owe no explanation for choosing growth, peace, or authenticity. When you know your worth, you no longer beg to be seen. You walk in your truth until the right people recognize it naturally. To strengthen your self-worth, practice self-validation. This means recognizing your effort without waiting for someone to acknowledge it. Celebrate your own progress, even the small steps. Every time you show up for yourself, every time you choose what's right over what's easy, you're proving your worth in action. The more you validate yourself, the less dependent you become on external praise. You start creating peace from within. That's the kind of confidence that cannot be shaken, because it's built on experience, not opinion. Comparison is another form of judgment that slowly erodes self-worth. When you constantly measure yourself against others, you lose sight of your unique value. There will always be someone richer, more skilled, or more recognized, but none of that changes your individual contribution to the world. You are not here to compete. You're here to grow. The moment you stop comparing, you begin to see how much you've already accomplished. You start living from gratitude instead of inadequacy. Gratitude quiets judgment because it focuses your attention on what's real and present instead of what's lacking. Knowing your worth also means setting boundaries. When you truly value yourself, you stop allowing disrespect, manipulation, or emotional abuse to continue. You realize that love and acceptance are not worth the cost of your dignity. You start saying no when something doesn't align with your values. You stop apologizing for wanting peace. Boundaries are not walls, they're standards that protect your energy. When you uphold them, people learn how to treat you. Those who genuinely respect you will stay, those who don't will fall away. That clarity is another form of freedom. It's easy to forget your worth when surrounded by noise, opinions, expectations, competition. That's why solitude is important. Spend time with yourself without distraction. Reflect on your goals, your values, and your progress. In quiet moments, you reconnect with your true essence, away from social comparison and judgment. You begin to feel whole again, remembering that your value doesn't depend on constant validation. Solitude teaches you to enjoy your own company, to listen to your thoughts without fear, and to appreciate the strength you carry within. Once you become comfortable being alone, the opinions of others lose their hold. When you rise above judgment, you start moving with purpose. You no longer waste time proving, defending, or explaining. You focus on growth, not gossip. You understand that energy is precious and should not be spent on convincing others of your worth. You start prioritizing what aligns with your values. You begin to live authentically, and that authenticity attracts the right people and opportunities naturally. You no longer chase acceptance, you radiate it from within. It's important to understand that no one can define your worth unless you allow them to. You were valuable before anyone noticed you, and you'll remain valuable even if no one does. Your worth is not a currency that fluctuates with approval. It's constant. It exists because you exist. When you live with that awareness, you walk differently, speak differently, and think differently. You stop reacting to every opinion and start observing life from a place of peace. You become unshakable not because life stops testing you, but because you know who you are through every test. In the end, rising above judgment is not about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about standing firmly in your truth, even when misunderstood. It's about knowing that your value doesn't rise or fall based on how others see you. It's about living from self-awareness, not self-doubt. When you know your worth, you stop chasing acceptance. You become the acceptance you once sought. You start living a life guided by inner strength, not outer noise. And from that moment forward, judgment loses its power, because you no longer live for their approval. You live for your peace, your growth, and your truth. Chapter 4. Silence negativity by focusing only on your peace. Negativity surrounds everyone at some point. It seeps in through conversations, social media, workplace tension, or even the company of people who constantly complain. Sometimes it comes from the outside, and sometimes it grows quietly inside your own thoughts. You cannot escape negativity completely, but you can learn to silence it. The most powerful way to do that is to make peace your focus. When peace becomes your goal, everything else, conflict, drama, and noise, loses importance. The energy you give to negativity fuels it, but the energy you give to peace weakens it. Choosing peace is not avoidance, it's mastery of where you place your attention. Every moment, you have a choice between reacting to what disturbs you or returning to what centers you. Most people spend their days reacting to criticism, bad news, others' moods, or small inconveniences. They allow negativity to dictate their emotional weather. But when you decide that your peace matters more, you begin to respond differently. You stop needing to control everything around you. You stop letting random moments steal your calm. Peace is not found in perfect conditions. It's created through consistent focus. The more you guard your peace, the stronger it becomes. It turns into a quiet force that shields you from the world's chaos. Silencing negativity begins with awareness. You have to recognize when negativity starts creeping into your space. It often hides behind harmless habits, complaining, gossiping, scrolling through bad news, or replaying past problems in your mind. Every time you feed these habits, you train your brain to focus on what's wrong. To silence negativity, you must interrupt this pattern. Start paying attention to what drains your energy. Notice who and what leaves you feeling heavy after an interaction. That awareness helps you make deliberate choices about what you allow into your mental and emotional space. Peace requires boundaries, and those boundaries begin with awareness. Once you recognize where negativity comes from, you can shift your focus. The human mind cannot hold two dominant emotions at the same time. If you focus on gratitude, peace, or understanding, negativity cannot thrive. You can train your thoughts by redirecting them every time they wander toward frustration or fear. When you catch yourself complaining, shift your attention to something you appreciate. When someone says something unkind, remind yourself that their words are a reflection of their mood, not your worth. Each time you choose peace, you strengthen your ability to stay calm under pressure. It becomes easier with practice. Peace also depends on the environment you keep. The people you spend time with shape your energy more than you realize. If you're surrounded by negativity, constant criticism, arguments, or drama, you'll absorb it without noticing. Protecting your peace doesn't mean cutting everyone off. It means becoming intentional about where you spend your time. Limit exposure to people or situations that consistently drain you. Seek out those who uplift you or bring clarity. Sometimes, silence is the best boundary. You don't have to explain your decision to protect your peace. You just have to live it. Another way to silence negativity is to stop fighting every opinion or misunderstanding. Not everything deserves a response. When you argue with negativity, you feed it. When you ignore it, it fades. You don't owe everyone an explanation for your choices, and you don't have to prove your peace to anyone. Silence becomes powerful when it comes from confidence. It's a quiet statement that you no longer waste energy on what doesn't serve you. Walking away from arguments, disengaging from toxic conversations, or simply choosing not to react is not weakness, it's wisdom in action. You realize that protecting your peace is more important than winning a temporary debate. Focusing on peace also means managing your internal dialogue. The mind can be your greatest source of negativity if left unchecked. Thoughts of failure, regret, or worry can drain your strength more than any external situation. You can't always control what thoughts arise, but you can decide which ones to engage with. When a negative thought appears, acknowledge it and then redirect it. You might say to yourself, "This thought doesn't help me right now," and move your attention to something positive or productive. Over time, this mental discipline creates calmness. You stop identifying with every thought and start observing them with detachment. Peace grows through acceptance. Much of life's negativity comes from resisting what is. We want things to be different, people to change, outcomes to go our way, problems to disappear. When reality doesn't match our expectations, we get frustrated. But peace arrives when you accept that not everything can be controlled. Acceptance is not giving up. It's letting go of resistance. It's saying, "This is how it is right now, and I can still find calm within it." When you stop fighting what you cannot change, your energy shifts from frustration to focus. You become stronger, not because life got easier, but because you stopped wasting strength on what you can't control. Focusing on peace also means choosing silence over constant reaction. The world teaches people to always have an opinion, to always respond, to always engage. But silence allows your mind to rest. It gives space for perspective. It helps you see situations clearly instead of emotionally. When you're silent, you don't suppress emotions, you understand them. You observe without reacting. In that quiet space, you find your balance again. The more you practice this kind of silence, the less easily disturbed you become. You begin to see negativity as noise passing by, not something you need to absorb. Inner peace is a form of strength that grows when you learn to focus on solutions instead of problems. Negativity feeds on repetition. It thrives when you keep revisiting the same complaints. To silence it, you have to replace complaining with constructive action. If something bothers you, ask what you can do about it. If nothing can be done, release it. Worry and resentment change nothing. They only weigh you down. Shifting your focus toward what you can control creates empowerment. It reminds you that peace is not about ignoring reality. It's about managing your response to it. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools for silencing negativity. It shifts your focus from what's missing to what's already present. Even in difficult moments, there's always something to be grateful for: a small comfort, a kind word, a new lesson. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it balances your perspective. It trains your mind to look for light even in dark times. Each time you practice gratitude, you make peace a little easier to reach. Eventually, gratitude becomes your default response, replacing negativity with quiet appreciation for life as it is. To maintain peace, you must also care for your physical and emotional health. Fatigue, stress, and overwork can make negativity louder. When you're tired, everything feels heavier. Taking care of yourself is not selfish, it's essential. Rest, eat well, move your body, and spend time in nature. Peace thrives in a well-rested mind. A balanced life creates mental clarity, and clarity silences unnecessary negativity. When your body and mind are in harmony, You can handle challenges without losing your calm. It's also important to forgive not only others, but yourself. Holding grudges is another form of negativity that lives inside you. It poisons your peace slowly, keeping old pain alive. Forgiveness is how you let that go. It doesn't mean you forget or condone, it means you free yourself. You decide that the past no longer deserves your present energy. Each time you forgive, you reclaim space in your heart for peace to grow. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself to move forward unburdened. Peace is a daily choice. You won't feel it every moment, and that's okay. The goal is not constant calmness, but awareness. When negativity rises, you recognize it quickly and guide your focus back to peace. You begin to notice what lifts your spirit and what drains it. You spend more time nurturing calmness than feeding chaos. You stop expecting others to protect your peace because you take responsibility for it yourself. That's emotional maturity, the understanding that peace is not given by life, but created through conscious attention. When you make peace your focus, life changes quietly but profoundly. You stop being easily disturbed by gossip, noise, or misunderstandings. You develop patience. You respond to stress with steadiness. You start valuing calmness over being right, stillness over constant activity, understanding over reaction. You realize that peace is not a luxury, it's a foundation for everything good in life. From peace, clarity grows. From clarity, better choices are made. And from those choices, a meaningful life is built. In the end, silencing negativity is not about denying reality. It's about choosing how to experience it. It's deciding that your mind will no longer be a battlefield but a sanctuary. It's realizing that you can't control everything around you, but you can always protect what's within you. Focusing on peace gives you strength, wisdom, and perspective. It makes you unshakable in a world that constantly tests your balance. The more you value peace, the less you chase chaos. You become calm in the middle of noise, steady in the face of conflict, and free in a world that feeds on reaction. That is how you silence negativity, not by fighting it, but by becoming too peaceful for it to survive. Chapter 5. Break free from needing approval to feel confident. Confidence built on approval is fragile. It rises when people praise you and collapses when they don't. It depends on what others see, not what you know about yourself. Many people live this way without realizing it. They shape their behavior, appearance, and goals around the need to be accepted. They constantly seek validation to feel good enough. But true confidence has nothing to do with approval. It begins when you stop waiting for others to confirm your worth and start believing it on your own. Breaking free from that need is one of the most freeing experiences you can ever have, because it returns your power back to where it belongs, with you. The habit of seeking approval starts early. As children, approval from parents or teachers felt like love. It made us feel safe and valued. But as adults, that same pattern becomes a trap. We start chasing recognition instead of purpose. We do things not because they align with our values, but because we want to be liked or admired. We measure success by applause rather than fulfillment. Over time, this habit drains self-respect, because every choice you make for approval moves you further from authenticity. You begin to lose touch with who you really are. Confidence that depends on others is never stable, because the opinions of people are unpredictable. One day they applaud you, the next day they don't. If your confidence moves with their mood, you'll never feel secure. Breaking free starts with realizing that external validation is temporary. Compliments feel good, but they fade quickly. Criticism stings, but it passes too. Neither defines your value. Confidence that lasts comes from integrity, living according to what you know is right, regardless of how it's received. You build it every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you follow through on a goal, and every time you choose truth over approval. Real confidence is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself or defend itself. It comes from knowing that you are whole, even when no one notices. The need for approval often hides behind the fear of rejection. You worry that if you say no, someone will be disappointed. If you express your true opinion, someone might disagree. So, you stay silent or compliant, thinking it's safer. But that fear costs you authenticity. You can't grow while constantly trying to please everyone. People-pleasing is not kindness, it's self-abandonment. It teaches you to value harmony more than honesty, and that eventually leaves you resentful and drained. The first step to freedom is understanding that rejection is not failure. It's redirection toward what aligns with you. Every time you dare to be honest instead of agreeable, your confidence grows. Confidence without approval also means becoming comfortable with being misunderstood. No matter how well you explain yourself, some people will misjudge you. That's part of life. You don't need to convince them to see your intentions clearly. What matters is that you see them clearly. The moment you stop needing everyone to understand you, you gain mental peace. Not everyone deserves access to your energy or explanations. When your confidence comes from self-knowledge, misunderstanding no longer feels threatening. It becomes a test of how deeply you trust yourself. Self-trust is at the heart of real confidence. It's the belief that you can handle whatever happens, whether others approve or not. It's built through experience. Each time you face a challenge and manage it, you build proof that you're capable. Each time you make a decision without seeking permission, you strengthen that belief. Trusting yourself doesn't mean you'll always be right. It means you're willing to learn even when you're wrong. It means you no longer rely on someone else's approval to validate your choices. That independence is what makes you powerful. You can start rebuilding confidence by paying attention to how often you seek validation in daily life. Notice when you look for reassurance before making a decision, when you feel anxious without feedback, or when you change your opinion to fit in. These small moments reveal how much control approval has over you. The goal is not to feel guilty for it, but to become aware of it. Awareness breaks the automatic pattern. Once you see it clearly, you can choose differently. You can pause before asking for unnecessary validation and instead ask yourself, what do I think? What feels right to me? Over time, you start trusting your own inner compass more than external applause. To strengthen that inner voice, spend time in solitude. Being alone helps you separate your real thoughts from the noise of others' opinions. It allows you to reflect on what you truly believe, what you want, and what you stand for. Many people fear solitude because they equate silence with loneliness, but solitude is where confidence is built. When you can enjoy your own company, you no longer crave constant validation. You start liking who you are, without the filter of social approval. That inner peace naturally turns into confidence that no one can take away. Approval addiction often comes from not feeling enough. You think if people like you, then you must be worthy. But worth isn't earned through others' acceptance. It's realized through self-awareness. Begin reminding yourself daily that you are enough as you are. You don't have to earn love, respect, or belonging. They come naturally when you live truthfully. Stop apologizing for your opinions, your dreams, or your differences. Confidence grows when you stop hiding the parts of yourself that make others uncomfortable. Authenticity may not please everyone, but it always brings you peace. Breaking free from approval also means redefining failure and success. When you measure success by how others react, you're never satisfied. But when you define success as staying true to yourself, confidence becomes sustainable. Some of the most confident people are those who stopped trying to impress and started trying to improve. They measure progress by growth, not applause. They understand that confidence doesn't mean being perfect. It means being comfortable with imperfection. They accept themselves fully, flaws and all, and that acceptance radiates as quiet strength. Criticism will always exist, but once you no longer rely on approval, criticism loses its bite. You begin to see it as information, not identity. Some feedback can be useful, and some is just noise. The difference is that you now choose what to take in. You evaluate it without letting it wound your confidence. When you stop reacting to every opinion, your mind becomes peaceful. You realize that everyone speaks from their own experiences, fears, and biases. What they say about you often has more to do with them than with you. That understanding frees you from taking their words personally. To solidify inner confidence, create personal standards. These are principles you live by, regardless of what others think. Standards are different from expectations. Expectations depend on others. Standards depend on you. When you have strong standards, honesty, consistency, discipline, you no longer chase validation. You already know who you are and what you stand for. You stop adjusting yourself to fit into environments that don't align with those standards. You attract people who respect your integrity because you no longer bend for acceptance. Building confidence without approval also requires patience. You've spent years conditioned to care about what others think, so unlearning it takes time. You'll still feel the urge to seek validation, but every time you resist it, you weaken its hold. Over time, you'll notice that the absence of approval no longer creates anxiety. Instead, it feels peaceful. You begin to enjoy the freedom of making choices for yourself. You stop editing your personality. You start expressing your ideas without hesitation. This is real. Confidence, not loud, not defensive, just steady. When you finally break free from needing approval, you stop chasing love that must be earned. You realize that the people meant for you will accept you as you are, not as you pretend to be. You start attracting relationships that are genuine, not conditional. You also gain mental space to focus on your goals instead of your image. Energy once wasted on fitting in is now used for growing, creating, and living authentically. You become someone who leads by example, a person who inspires others, not by seeking attention but by standing firmly in truth. True confidence doesn't demand recognition, it creates it naturally. When you no longer depend on others to tell you who you are, you carry yourself with quiet authority. You listen without insecurity and speak without fear. You no longer rush to prove your worth because you live it. Breaking free from approval is not about rejecting others, it's about returning to yourself. It's about remembering that confidence is not something to find in people's reactions, but something to build within your character. When you reach that point, you stop chasing acceptance and begin walking in authenticity. That's when life feels lighter. You no longer perform for approval, you live for peace. And that is where real confidence begins, when your value is defined not by others' voices, but by your own unwavering belief in who you are. Chapter 6. Transform criticism into motivation for personal growth. Criticism is something every person faces, yet very few know how to handle it with strength and clarity. It can either build you or break you, depending on how you choose to interpret it. When someone criticizes you, your natural reaction might be to feel defensive, hurt, or even angry. That's normal. But growth begins when you stop seeing criticism as an attack and start viewing it as an opportunity for understanding and progress. Transforming criticism into motivation is not about pretending it doesn't hurt. It's about learning to use it wisely. It's about turning what was meant to discourage you into fuel that refines your focus, strengthens your discipline, and deepens your self-awareness. The first step in transforming criticism into growth is separating emotion from information. When you hear words that feel uncomfortable, your instinct is to protect yourself. Your ego wants to prove the critic wrong, But reacting emotionally blocks learning. Instead of rushing to defend yourself, take a step back and ask, is there anything useful in what's being said? Not all criticism is valid, but some of it holds truth. The key is to pause long enough to find that truth. When you remove ego from the equation, you can look at feedback objectively. You stop hearing it as a personal attack and start seeing it as a mirror reflecting areas for improvement. That simple shift turns pain into perspective. Criticism can come in many forms. Sometimes it's constructive, delivered with care and clarity. Sometimes it's harsh, careless, or even cruel. You can't control how it's given, but you can control how you receive it. When criticism is constructive, accept it with gratitude. It means someone sees potential in you. When it's harsh or unfair, stay calm. Even then, ask yourself if there's a small lesson hidden in the noise. Sometimes, even poorly delivered criticism points to something worth improving. If there's no truth in it, let it go without bitterness. You gain nothing by fighting every opinion. Maturity means knowing when to listen and when to move on. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming criticism defines their worth. It doesn't. It reveals how others perceive you based on limited information. You are always more than someone's opinion. The moment you realize this, you gain freedom. You stop shrinking under judgment and start using it as data. Confidence doesn't come from ignoring criticism. It comes from handling it with wisdom. The strongest individuals are not those who never get criticized. They are those who use every experience to refine their skills, sharpen their focus, and strengthen their mindset. They understand that criticism, when approached with humility, becomes a teacher. Every time you're criticized, you have two choices. You can take it personally, or you can take it seriously. Taking it personally means letting it affect your emotions and confidence. Taking it seriously means analyzing it to see if it can help you grow. Growth requires humility. It takes courage to admit that someone else's observation might be right. It also takes wisdom to recognize when it's not. Humility doesn't weaken you, it protects you from arrogance and stagnation. The person who learns from criticism moves forward. The person who avoids it stays stuck, repeating the same mistakes in different situations. Turning criticism into motivation requires emotional control. When you learn to manage your reactions, you gain power. Instead of letting criticism discourage you, you can turn it into drive. For example, if someone questions your abilities, instead of becoming defensive, let that push you to improve your craft until your results speak louder than words. If someone doubts your potential, let that fuel your persistence. The goal is not to prove anyone wrong, but to prove yourself right. Growth built on resentment fades quickly, but growth built on discipline lasts. When you use criticism to sharpen your purpose, instead of feeding your anger, you grow stronger without bitterness. Sometimes criticism reveals insecurities within you. If someone's comment hits a nerve, it might be touching a part of yourself that you haven't fully accepted or improved. That discomfort is not a punishment, it's guidance. It's showing you where your next level of growth lies. Instead of avoiding it, face it. Ask yourself why it bothers you so much. What belief or fear is it exposing? When you answer honestly, you discover parts of yourself that need attention. That awareness helps you evolve. You begin to thank criticism, not because it feels good, but because it reveals truth. Pain can be a great teacher when you stop resisting it. The most powerful response to criticism is self-reflection. Before reacting, take time to evaluate. Ask yourself if what's being said aligns with your values and goals. If it does, use it as guidance. If it doesn't, let it pass. Either way, you learn something about yourself. Reflection turns criticism into clarity. You start understanding what truly matters to you and what doesn't. Not every piece of feedback deserves your energy. Some criticism comes from envy, misunderstanding, or projection. Learning to distinguish between useful and useless criticism saves you from unnecessary frustration. You gain emotional independence when you stop allowing every opinion to shape your self-image. Transforming criticism into motivation also requires shifting your focus from validation to mastery. When you focus on mastery, your goal becomes improvement, not perfection. You stop expecting universal approval because you understand that excellence invites scrutiny. Every great achiever faces criticism because progress challenges comfort. If you're being criticized, it often means you're doing something that matters. People who do nothing rarely and get criticized. This realization helps you see criticism as a sign of movement, not failure. It reminds you that growth and discomfort walk together. The more you expand, the more feedback you'll receive. That's not a reason to stop. It's proof that you're evolving. To stay motivated after criticism, build a personal philosophy of resilience. Decide that nothing others say will stop you from becoming better. Use feedback as raw material for growth. Study it, learn from it, but never let it define you. Remind yourself that you are a work in progress, and progress is never perfect. When you turn criticism into motivation, you shift from "they hurt me" to "they helped me see what I can improve." That mindset removes the sting from negativity and transforms it into determination. Every comment, even the unfair ones, becomes part of your strength. Confidence grows when you stop fearing feedback. The more comfortable you become with being evaluated, the faster you develop. Fear of criticism holds people back from taking risks, expressing ideas, or chasing goals. They stay quiet, safe, and unnoticed. But safety does not create growth. Learning to handle criticism with composure allows you to move boldly. You stop needing reassurance before every step. You begin trusting your judgment while remaining open to improvement. This balance between humility and confidence is what defines true growth. You become teachable without being fragile. Another powerful way to use criticism as motivation is to turn it into action immediately. Don't dwell on what was said, do something with it. If someone points out a weakness, work on it. If they question your consistency, prove them wrong through discipline. If the feedback was harsh but truthful, let it sharpen your focus. Growth comes from action, not overthinking. Each time you take action based on reflection, you turn negative energy into forward momentum. That transformation builds momentum. Eventually, the criticism that once discouraged you becomes fuel that keeps you moving forward. You'll also find that when you stop reacting defensively to criticism, people start respecting you more. Calmness under feedback signals strength. It shows emotional maturity. Instead of arguing or withdrawing, you listen, evaluate, and decide. That ability separates leaders from followers. People who grow are those who can hear uncomfortable truths without losing their balance. When you cultivate that calm response, you become unshakable. You learn to use every experience, pleasant or not, to your advantage. You stop seeing criticism as something to avoid and start viewing it as part of your evolution. Over time, transforming criticism into motivation changes your relationship with failure. You begin to understand that mistakes are not something to hide, they are tools for refinement. You start valuing feedback because it accelerates learning. You no longer waste time on resentment. You stop needing everyone to like your work because your focus shifts from acceptance to excellence. Growth becomes personal. You work hard not for applause but for progress. You realize that success is not the absence of criticism, but the ability to keep improving despite it. In the end, criticism is not your enemy, it's your greatest mirror. It shows you how others see your actions, decisions, and results. Some of what you see will be unfair, and some will be invaluable. Your power lies in deciding how to use it. When you respond with humility, reflection, and focus, every word meant to limit you becomes a stepping stone toward mastery. You become stronger, not in spite of criticism, but because of how you handle it. That's the beauty of self-mastery. You take what was meant to wound you and turn it into wisdom. You stop fearing judgment and start using it as a reminder that you're alive, learning, and improving. And in that transformation, you discover one of life's greatest truths. What others use to test you can become the very thing that shapes your greatness. Chapter 7. Protect your energy by not reacting to drama. Drama is the noise that distracts you from peace, focus, and progress. It pulls you into conflicts that don't serve you, arguments that change nothing, and emotional chaos that drains your energy. It thrives on reaction, it feeds on attention. The moment you stop reacting, it loses power. Protecting your energy means refusing to be pulled into that cycle. It means deciding that your time, emotions, and peace are too valuable to waste on pointless tension. You don't have to attend every conflict you're invited to. Sometimes strength looks like silence, and power looks like walking away. Every person has limited emotional energy. How you spend it determines the quality of your life. When you waste it on drama, you have less for what truly matters: your goals, your relationships, your growth. People who constantly create chaos often want company. In their confusion, they pull others into their emotional storms because they don't know how to manage their own feelings. But you are not responsible for fixing everyone's turmoil. You can care without carrying. You can listen without absorbing. You can love people and still protect your boundaries. That's emotional intelligence in action. Drama exists because it gets a reaction. When someone provokes you and you respond with frustration or anger, you reinforce their behavior. You teach them that they can control your emotions. The way to stop it is by not engaging. When you remain calm, you create confusion in people who expect you to explode. They lose interest because you're no longer feeding their need for attention. Calmness, in this sense, is not passive, it's strategic. It's choosing maturity over impulse. You don't win by arguing louder, you win by refusing to play the game. Protecting your energy begins with clarity. You must know what truly deserves your attention. Not every conversation needs a response, and not every situation requires your involvement. When you constantly react to every irritation, you become exhausted. Drama spreads because people allow it. You can stop it by learning to pause before responding. In that pause, ask yourself, will this matter tomorrow? Will this bring peace or more chaos? If the answer doesn't serve your well-being, disengage. Protecting your energy isn't avoidance, it's wisdom. It's recognizing that peace is more valuable than winning an argument or proving a point. Some people create drama out of habit. They complain, criticize, or exaggerate situations to gain sympathy or control. They project their unresolved emotions onto others because it makes them feel powerful. When you encounter such behavior, your best defense is emotional distance. Don't argue, don't explain, don't try to fix them. Simply observe without attachment. The less you react, the more control you keep. Drama only survives when it gets a reaction. Without your participation, it dissolves. Your silence communicates boundaries more effectively than any speech ever could. Learning not to react doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It means mastering them. When you practice self-control, you're teaching your mind that not every emotion deserves expression. You can feel anger, disappointment, or irritation without acting on it. That's strength. Reacting is easy. Responding with calmness takes discipline. Every time you choose restraint, you preserve your energy for what actually matters. Over time, you begin to notice how peaceful life becomes when you stop engaging with meaningless tension. The absence of drama doesn't make life dull, it makes it clear. Protecting your energy also means setting emotional boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they're filters. They help you decide what enters your life and what doesn't. When you allow everyone's emotions and problems to influence you, you lose your balance. Some people will always try to draw you into their chaos because it validates their own dysfunction. You can care for them, but you don't have to join them. Kindness does not mean availability. You have the right to protect your peace, even if it disappoints others. True compassion is not sacrificing your well-being for someone who refuses to change. Drama often escalates because people crave validation more than resolution. They argue to be right, not to understand. They want the last word, not peace. When you recognize this, you stop engaging in endless debates. You realize that silence is not weakness, it's control. When you choose not to react, you're not surrendering. You're protecting your state of mind. You're saying, my peace matters more than this conversation, and that mindset frees you. It allows you to stay centered even when others try to pull you into emotional games. Another important aspect of avoiding drama is managing your own triggers. Sometimes the chaos outside mirrors unresolved emotions inside. When someone provokes you, ask yourself what part of their behavior bothers you so much. If you react strongly, it's often because something inside you still needs healing. Awareness turns conflict into growth. Once you identify your triggers, you stop giving them power. You start noticing that drama can't touch you unless it finds something inside you to attach to. The stronger your inner balance, the less external conflict affects you. To protect your energy, you must also master the art of detachment. Detachment doesn't mean not caring. It means caring from a place of calm observation. You understand that you cannot control others' behavior, only your reaction to it. You stop trying to fix every problem or prove every point. You focus on your actions, not their approval. Detachment gives you freedom from the emotional roller coaster of other people's moods. It keeps your energy stable no matter what's happening around you. You begin to live from the inside out instead of letting the outside world dictate your emotions. You can also protect your energy by managing what you consume. Drama doesn't only come from people, it comes from what you watch, read, and listen to. Negative media, gossip, and constant exposure to conflict can influence your emotions, even when you think they don't. Guard your mental environment as carefully as your physical one. Choose peace in what you allow into your mind. Spend time reading things that uplift you, listening to people who inspire you, and engaging in activities that restore calm. Energy flows where attention goes, so give your attention to what nourishes, not what drains. When you stop reacting to drama, you gain back time, focus, and emotional strength. You begin to see how much energy you once wasted trying to control others' perceptions or solve problems that were never yours. You start noticing that silence often brings faster resolution than argument. You realize that most conflicts end naturally when one person refuses to continue the cycle. By staying calm, you influence situations more effectively than by shouting or explaining. Your composure becomes a message that says, I'm not available for chaos. People start treating you differently because they know you don't entertain drama. Protecting your energy is also about prioritizing peace over pride. Many arguments continue because people feel the need to be right. But being right doesn't always bring peace. Letting go of the need to win allows you to rise above petty tension. You don't have to attend every debate. You don't have to reply to every provocation. Sometimes walking away is the smartest move, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to see that arguing costs energy and peace offers freedom. True strength lies in knowing what's worth your attention and what isn't. As you grow emotionally, you begin to understand that peace is your most valuable asset. You stop chasing validation or attention and start choosing calmness. You protect your mornings by not checking negativity. You protect your evenings by not revisiting conflict. You protect your relationships by staying composed instead of reactive. Slowly, your life transforms. The noise around you doesn't disappear, but it no longer controls your emotions. You become grounded. Your responses become intentional. You start living with clarity and stability instead of tension and reaction. Eventually, you'll notice that peace attracts peace. The more calm you become, the fewer conflicts you experience. Drama cannot survive in a peaceful environment because it seeks attention and chaos. When you stop feeding it, it naturally fades away. You become someone who radiates balance, unbothered, steady, and aware. You stop reacting to every situation and start responding with wisdom. That's the essence of protecting your energy, realizing that not everything requires your involvement. You save your strength for what truly matters: your growth, your health, your purpose. When you stop reacting to drama, life becomes lighter. You no longer carry other people's emotions as your own. You stop replaying negative conversations in your mind. You begin to feel freedom in silence. You learn that peace is not something you find outside, it's something you protect inside. The less you react, the more power you hold. The quieter you become, the more peace you create. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it's necessary. It allows you to live intentionally, love fully, and grow without being pulled into unnecessary noise. And when peace becomes your priority, you realize that no amount of drama is worth disturbing it. Chapter 8. Take back your power by choosing understanding over anger. Anger is one of the most powerful emotions humans experience, but it is also one of the most destructive when left uncontrolled. It can make you say things you don't mean, act in ways you later regret, and carry stress that damages your peace. Anger burns energy that could be used for growth, for healing, or for understanding. The truth is, you don't lose your power when someone hurts you. You lose it when you allow anger to take over. Taking back your power begins the moment you choose to understand instead of react. It's not weakness to stay calm, it's mastery. It's realizing that your inner strength grows each time you rise above the urge to fight fire with fire. Choosing understanding over anger means deciding to pause before reacting. It's in that pause that you regain control of your mind. When anger arises, the body tightens, breathing quickens, and your thoughts become narrow. You focus only on the offense, not the bigger picture. But if you stop for a moment and breathe, you give yourself a chance to think. You shift from being controlled by emotion to leading it. This choice is what separates maturity from impulse. Understanding doesn't mean agreeing with what happened, it means seeing the situation clearly enough to respond wisely instead of emotionally. Anger is easy, understanding is harder. Anyone can react, but not everyone can stay calm long enough to look deeper. Most anger is not about what's happening right now, it's about the meaning you attach to it. Someone disrespects you, and you take it as proof that you're not valued. Someone disagrees with you, and you see it as a personal attack. Understanding breaks this pattern. It helps you realize that people's behavior often reflects their own struggles. Their anger, impatience, or cruelty says more about their inner state than about your worth. When you understand this, you stop absorbing other people's pain as your own. You no longer feel the need to retaliate because you see that their reaction is about them, not you. Taking back your power requires emotional awareness. You must learn to recognize anger as a signal, not a command. It signals that something inside you feels violated, misunderstood, or afraid. If you listen to that signal instead of acting on it, you can learn something valuable about yourself. Ask yourself why this situation bothers you so much. What is the real source of the emotion? Is it disappointment, insecurity, or unmet expectation? Understanding yourself on this level gives you authority over your emotions. Anger can't control you when you understand where it comes from. It loses its grip because you've turned it into insight. When you choose understanding, you create space for perspective. Perspective allows you to see options that anger blinds you to. You begin to realize that you can address a situation firmly without hostility. You can speak your truth without shouting, and you can set boundaries without hate. Understanding teaches you that strength is not shown by loud reactions, but by calm precision. It's the ability to handle conflict without becoming consumed by it. Each time you do this, you reclaim a piece of your power that anger used to take away. Anger thrives on misunderstanding. When communication breaks down, assumptions take over. You start believing stories that might not even be true. Understanding interrupts this process. It pushes you to listen instead of assume. When you listen fully, you often discover that situations are more complex than you thought. Maybe the other person wasn't trying to hurt you. Maybe they were reacting out of their own pain or fear. Seeing this doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it allows you to respond with clarity instead of aggression. You can still stand up for yourself, but you do it without letting anger lead the way. That's what it means to take your power back. You make choices from awareness, not emotion. There's a quiet dignity in choosing understanding over anger. It doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful. It shows that your emotions serve you instead of ruling you. You can still feel deeply without being destructive. When you respond with understanding, people begin to see your composure as strength. You stop feeding unnecessary conflict and start creating resolution. Your presence becomes grounding to others because you no longer mirror chaos, you bring calmness into it. That kind of energy influences people more than anger ever could. Understanding also gives you peace because it frees you from taking everything personally. You begin to notice that life isn't always fair and people aren't always kind, but your reaction determines whether those moments drain or strengthen you. When you understand that not everything deserves your anger, you conserve your emotional energy for things that truly matter. You stop wasting time on small frustrations. You start moving through challenges with patience and composure. You no longer react to every negative situation because your sense of balance no longer depends on external behavior. That's what inner freedom feels like: stability, even when others lose control. Anger often disguises pain. When people hurt you, the immediate emotion you feel might be rage, but underneath that rage is usually disappointment or sadness. You expected better. You cared more. Understanding helps you see that anger is your body's way of expressing hurt. When you acknowledge that truth, healing becomes possible. Instead of suppressing emotion or lashing out, you face what's really happening inside. You might realize that forgiveness, not retaliation, will set you free. That awareness doesn't come from anger, it comes from patience and reflection. The more you practice this, the faster you can move from pain to clarity. To develop understanding, you must learn the art of observation. When a conflict arises, step back mentally and observe the situation like an outsider. Ask yourself what's really going on here. What might the other person be feeling or fearing? What am I contributing to this moment? Observation creates emotional distance, and distance gives you wisdom. It allows you to see that reacting instantly rarely solves anything. Once you see clearly, you can decide whether it's worth responding at all. Many times, silence speaks louder than argument. Understanding often requires restraint. Taking back your power also means realizing that anger wastes energy that could be used for growth. Every time you stay angry, you're replaying the same pain in your mind. You relive the moment instead of moving beyond it. Understanding breaks that loop. It allows you to learn the lesson and release the rest. You begin to see that anger doesn't punish the person who hurt you, it punishes you. It keeps you emotionally attached to the situation long after it's over. Choosing understanding helps you detach. You acknowledge what happened, learn what you can, and move forward lighter. That is how emotional freedom feels. You can practice this transformation in everyday situations. When someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of shouting, remind yourself that maybe they're rushing for a reason. When a colleague criticizes you unfairly, instead of resenting them, ask yourself whether their words reflect pressure they're under. When someone close to you disappoints you, look for the humanity behind their actions. Understanding doesn't justify behavior, but it gives you emotional maturity. You start responding from awareness instead of ego. Every time you make that choice, your peace expands. Over time, understanding becomes your default response. You begin to feel less reactive and more grounded. People who once triggered you lose their influence over your mood. You start seeing the bigger picture instead of getting trapped in the moment. Your mind becomes calmer because it's no longer bouncing between anger and regret. You develop patience, which gives you time to think clearly. And when you think clearly, your decisions improve. Life becomes smoother because you no longer create unnecessary friction. You stop wasting days being angry over things that no longer matter. Taking back your power through understanding also deepens your compassion. You start realizing that everyone struggles in ways you can't see. People act out of fear, pain, or confusion, just as you sometimes do. When you understand this, it's easier to let go of grudges. Compassion doesn't mean allowing mistreatment, it means releasing resentment so it doesn't poison you. It's a quiet realization that carrying anger serves no purpose. Understanding makes forgiveness possible because it shifts your focus from punishment to peace. Eventually, you begin to see that choosing understanding is not something you do for others, it's something you do for yourself. It's a form of self-respect. It's saying, I refuse to give my emotions away to people who don't value them. You become emotionally independent. You stop being controlled by what others say or do. You maintain your balance even when situations are unfair. That stability is true strength. It can't be faked and it can't be taken away. When you start living this way, life feels different. You no longer carry the tension of constant reaction. You feel lighter, clearer, and more in control. Understanding turns you into a calm observer of life instead of a constant participant in conflict. You realize that peace is not about everything going right, it's about you handling things with calm awareness no matter what goes wrong. Anger once felt powerful because it was loud, but understanding is more powerful because it is lasting. It's the quiet confidence that you no longer need to fight every battle to prove your worth. You have learned that strength is not found in anger, but in control, and that is how you take back your power, not by reacting louder, but by responding wiser. Chapter 9. Grow stronger each day by letting go of offense. Offense is one of the most common emotional traps in life. It starts small. Someone says something careless, acts unfairly, or forgets to treat you with the respect you believe you deserve. You feel hurt, and then that hurt starts to grow. You replay the moment in your mind, you analyze every word, and slowly, offense turns into resentment. It begins to occupy your thoughts, steal your peace, and weaken your focus. What started as a passing comment becomes a heavy emotional burden. The truth is, holding on to offense doesn't punish the person who caused it. It punishes you. Letting go isn't about pretending it didn't hurt. It's about refusing to let that hurt control your life. Every day that you release offense, you become stronger, freer, and more at peace with yourself. Strength doesn't come from holding grudges, it comes from learning to move beyond them. When you let go of offense, you stop allowing others to dictate how you feel. You take back ownership of your emotions. Many people confuse letting go with weakness, thinking it means giving up or tolerating mistreatment. But it's the opposite. It takes far more courage to release something painful than to cling to it. It takes self-awareness to say, I will not carry this anymore. That decision marks the beginning of emotional maturity. It shows that your peace matters more than your pride. Every time you hold on to offense, it drains your mental energy. You think about what was said, how unfair it was, and what you should have said back. That constant rumination keeps you trapped in the past. It blocks creativity, clarity, and joy. Letting go clears that space. It doesn't erase the memory, but it removes its emotional grip on you. When you stop feeding an old wound, it begins to heal naturally. Growth happens when you stop revisiting pain and start focusing on what lies ahead. Forgiveness is not a single act. It's a daily choice to stop reopening the same emotional scar. To grow stronger through letting go, you must first understand why offense feels so heavy. It's not just the action that hurts, it's what you make it mean about you. When someone offends you, you might interpret it as rejection, disrespect, or betrayal. You attach identity to the event. But most offenses are not personal. They're reflections of the other person's mood, values, or ignorance. When you stop personalizing every slight, offense loses power. People act out of their own understanding and experience, not yours. You don't have to agree with their behavior, but you also don't have to let it shape your emotions. Letting go also means releasing the need for justice. Often, the hardest part of moving on is feeling like the other person got away with something. You want them to understand how much they hurt you or to apologize sincerely, but waiting for closure keeps you trapped in waiting. Growth happens when you can decide that your healing is not dependent on anyone else's actions. You may never get the apology you deserve, but you can still free yourself from the pain. That decision gives you power. The moment you stop needing someone else to make it right, you start to heal on your own terms. Offense lingers because it feeds the ego. The ego loves being right, being acknowledged, and being seen as the victim. It convinces you that letting go means losing, that forgiving means accepting defeat. But real strength has nothing to do with ego. It's about peace. When you let go of offense, you stop fighting battles that don't deserve your energy. You no longer feel the need to prove your side of the story or correct everyone's perception. You begin to value inner calm more than external validation. You stop replaying the past and start creating your future. One of the most powerful steps in releasing offense is empathy. Try to see beyond the action and into the human behind it. Ask of yourself what might have caused their behavior. Maybe they were having a hard day. Maybe they spoke from pain, not malice. Understanding doesn't justify what they did. It frees you from bitterness. It reminds you that everyone is flawed, including you. You've hurt people unintentionally too. When you recognize that shared humanity, forgiveness becomes easier. Empathy transforms anger into compassion and turns resentment into wisdom. Letting go doesn't happen instantly. It's a gradual process that requires self-awareness and intention. Some days, the memory will return, and the old emotions will rise again. Instead of suppressing them, acknowledge them, and then release them. Tell yourself, I'm choosing peace again. Every time you do that, the hold of the offense weakens. Eventually, it no longer triggers you. You remember it, but it no longer carries weight. That's what growth feels like, not forgetting, but being free enough that remembering doesn't hurt. Offense can also be a teacher. Every time someone offends you, it reveals something about your expectations, your boundaries, or your insecurities. Maybe you expect others to treat you the way you treat them, and when they don't, you take it personally. Maybe you allow disrespect because you fear confrontation. Maybe you attach too much value to how others perceive you. If you reflect honestly, each offense becomes an opportunity for growth. It teaches you where you still need healing, where you need stronger boundaries, and where you need to let go of unrealistic expectations. The lesson is not in the pain, it's in what the pain shows you about yourself. Letting go of offense is not only emotional, it's physical. Holding resentment affects your body. It raises stress hormones, tightens muscles, and drains your energy. You carry tension you don't even notice until you release it. The moment you choose forgiveness, your body relaxes, your mind becomes lighter. Peace has a way of restoring balance, not just emotionally but physically. It's like removing a weight you didn't realize you were carrying every day. That's why forgiveness isn't just for others, it's for your own health. When you stop taking offense, you become unshakable. Life no longer throws you off balance every time someone behaves poorly. You develop resilience. You stop expecting fairness from everyone and instead rely on your ability to adapt. You start to realize that peace is not the absence of difficult people, it's the ability to remain calm among them. This kind of strength doesn't come from fighting back but from staying centered. The more you practice letting go, the faster you recover from emotional disturbances. You become someone who cannot be easily provoked because your self-worth no longer depends on others' actions. A powerful way to release offense is through gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what went wrong to what's still right in your life. When you practice gratitude daily, you start seeing that no single event, no matter how painful, can define your life. You realize that even the things that hurt you taught you something valuable about boundaries, patience, or empathy. Gratitude transforms offense into perspective. It reminds you that your life is bigger than any single moment of pain. You stop giving small events the power to overshadow the good. The world will always give you opportunities to be offended. People will speak without thinking, act selfishly, or fail to meet your expectations. You can't control that, but you can control your response. Each time you let go instead of holding on, you grow stronger. You build emotional endurance. You become less reactive and more intentional. Offense loses its grip because you've outgrown the need to carry it. You start noticing that peace lasts longer, relationships feel lighter, and your days flow more easily. You no longer carry emotional baggage into new experiences. Letting go doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It means addressing what needs to be addressed calmly, setting clear boundaries, and then moving on without bitterness. You can stand up for yourself without staying angry. You can express how you feel without holding on to resentment. The key is to deal with conflict directly and then release it fully. When you do that, you keep your emotional space clean. You stop replaying old arguments in your mind. You stop letting yesterday's pain contaminate today's peace. Over time, you realize that letting go is not a single act of forgiveness, it's a way of living. It's a mindset that says, I choose peace over pain every time. It's choosing to walk lightly through life, not weighed down by grudges. You learn that people will disappoint you, but that doesn't mean you have to stay disappointed. You accept that not everyone will act with kindness, but you refuse to mirror their behavior. You keep your heart open, not because others deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Each time you release offense, you rise higher in strength and freedom. The ability to let go is what turns pain into wisdom. It's what separates those who stay stuck in old wounds from those who grow through them. You become stronger, not because life gets easier, but because you've learned that your peace is worth protecting. The less you hold on to offense, the more space you have for clarity, joy, and purpose. You stop reliving the same emotional stories and start creating new ones built on calmness and understanding. True strength isn't about never being hurt, it's about refusing to live hurt. When you master the art of letting go, you step into a kind of power that nothing and no one can take from you. Chapter 10. Live happier by refusing to take things personally. Most of the pain people carry every day doesn't come from what happens to them, but from how personally they take it. A comment, a look, a tone of voice, a missed call, small things turn into heavy emotional loads because they're filtered through insecurity, pride, or overthinking. When you take things personally, you hand your happiness to others without realizing it. You allow their words, moods, and behavior to shape your emotions. The moment you stop doing that, life becomes lighter. Refusing to take things personally isn't about becoming indifferent. It's about understanding that not everything that happens around you is about you. It's about realizing that most people act out of their own stories, fears, and perceptions, not because of who you are. When you truly understand this, you begin to live with more peace, confidence, and joy. Happiness grows naturally when you stop interpreting everything as a personal attack or judgment. You begin to see that people's reactions often come from what they're going through, not from anything you've done. Someone snaps at you, not because you deserve it, but because they're frustrated. Someone ignores you, not because you're unworthy, but because they're distracted. When you remove yourself from the center of everyone else's behavior, your emotional life stabilizes. You no longer ride the highs and lows of others' moods. You learn to observe without absorbing. This is one of the greatest forms of freedom you can give yourself. Taking things personally comes from a desire to be seen, understood, and validated. Deep down, you want others to treat you the way you treat them. But life rarely works that way. Everyone lives through a different lens. What feels disrespectful to you might seem normal to someone else. When you understand this, you stop demanding emotional perfection from others. You stop expecting every person to communicate with awareness. You begin to focus instead on managing your own reaction. That's where your real power lies, not in controlling others, but in controlling what you allow to affect your peace. The reason people take things personally is because they attach their sense of worth to how others treat them. If someone criticizes you, you think it means you're not good enough. If someone praises you, you feel validated. But when your value depends on others' opinions, you'll always be emotionally unstable. One word can lift you up, and another can break you down. True happiness comes when you separate your identity from others' perceptions. You are not how people treat you, you are how you treat yourself. Once you begin to live by that truth, no one's behavior can shake your sense of worth. Refusing to take things personally requires emotional discipline. It's not about ignoring how you feel, but about understanding your feelings before acting on them. When someone says something that bothers you, pause. Ask yourself, is this really about me? Most of the time, it's not. People speak from their experiences, fears, and limitations. Their behavior is a reflection of their reality. Once you see this, you can let go faster. You realize that taking offense or overthinking every interaction only drains your energy. You learn to protect your peace by refusing to internalize what isn't yours. This mindset shift doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice and self-awareness. You start by observing how often you personalize situations. Notice the small triggers, the coworker's comment that lingers in your mind, the friend's delayed reply that makes you feel unimportant. These moments are opportunities to grow. Instead of spiraling into self-doubt, remind yourself that your interpretation is not the full truth. You're viewing things through emotion, not clarity. Once you calm your thoughts, the intensity fades. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes to separate what's real from what's imagined. Living without taking things personally doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect. It means you address issues calmly, without emotional chaos. You can still say, "That wasn't okay," without anger. You can express how you feel without assuming someone's intention. When you stop taking things personally, you deal with conflict from a place of logic, not ego. You no longer overreact, because you no longer assume that everything is an attack. This approach brings balance to your relationships. People begin to feel safer around you because you don't respond with unnecessary defensiveness. You become someone who listens, understands, and communicates clearly. A key part of refusing to take things personally is understanding projection. People often project their insecurities, fears, and frustrations onto others. If someone constantly criticizes you, it may reveal more about their self-esteem than about your actions. If someone dismisses your ideas, it might be because they fear being overshadowed. Recognizing projection helps you detach emotionally. You stop absorbing negativity that doesn't belong to you. Instead of reacting, you observe. You think, that's their perspective, not my truth. This small shift creates emotional distance, and that distance is where peace lives. You also stop taking things personally when you develop self-acceptance. The more you know and value yourself, the less you need external validation. Criticism loses its sting because you no longer doubt your worth. Praise stops inflating your ego because you already know who you are. Self-acceptance builds a kind of quiet confidence that no one can take away. You stop being swayed by others' opinions and start relying on your own standards. You measure your actions by your integrity, not by others' reactions. That's when happiness becomes steady. It's no longer conditional on what people say or do. When you stop personalizing life, you become more compassionate. You begin to see that everyone is fighting invisible battles. That rude stranger at the store might be exhausted. That impatient coworker might be under pressure. When you stop assuming everything is about you, you open space for understanding. Compassion replaces resentment. You no longer take offense where none was meant. You start seeing others not as threats but as humans trying to figure life out, just like you. This mindset doesn't make you naive, it makes you peaceful. It keeps your heart open without leaving it unguarded. Happiness grows when you stop letting small things ruin your day. Every time you take something personally, you give away your joy. You allow one moment to overshadow everything else that's good in your life. But when you choose detachment, you start noticing the small beauties again, the calm in your morning routine, the warmth in a smile, the comfort in stillness. You realize that peace is not about avoiding challenges, but about responding to them with understanding. You don't need everyone to treat you perfectly for you to feel content. You just need to stop expecting perfection from them. Letting go of taking things personally also protects your relationships. Misunderstandings are part of human connection, but when you stop reacting emotionally to every misunderstanding, you create space for better communication. You listen more carefully and respond with patience. You stop assuming intention and start asking for clarity. People feel safer to be honest with you because they know you won't take offense easily. This kind of emotional maturity deepens trust and reduces conflict. Your calmness becomes contagious, helping others also act with more awareness. One of the most liberating realizations in life is that not everything needs your reaction. Silence can be more powerful than response. Walking away can be stronger than arguing. You don't always have to defend yourself, explain yourself, or prove your perspective. When you stop taking things personally, you stop being pulled into emotional games. You protect your peace by not giving your energy to situations that don't deserve it. That's how happiness grows, not through control, but through letting go of what you can't control. Over time, this mindset changes everything. You start to notice how light you feel when you no longer interpret everything as an attack. You spend less time overanalyzing and more time being present. You stop replaying conversations in your head. You start living in the moment, not in imagined conflicts. Your happiness becomes consistent because it no longer depends on unpredictable external forces. You feel calmer, clearer, and more in control of your emotions. Life still has its challenges, but you handle them with grace instead of tension. Refusing to take things personally is not about building emotional walls. It's about building emotional strength. It's understanding that people's behavior is shaped by their history, not your identity. It's knowing that your peace is too valuable to be disturbed by misunderstanding or ignorance. It's realizing that most things that upset you lose meaning if you stop giving them attention. When you learn to detach emotionally, you don't become cold, you become wise. You move through life with a sense of stability that nothing can easily shake. In the end, happiness comes down to emotional responsibility. You are responsible for how you feel, not for how others behave. You can't stop people from being rude, unfair, or thoughtless, but you can choose how you let it affect you. The moment you stop taking things personally, you reclaim your emotional freedom. You no longer depend on others to maintain your peace. You stop being a prisoner of their moods and become the guardian of your own. That is how you live happier, not by changing the world, but by changing how you interpret it. You finally realize that peace doesn't come from everyone treating you perfectly. It comes from not needing them to.